Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be crucified. The Roman soldiers took charge of Jesus and led him away to be crucified. As they were going out, a certain man from Cyrene named Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, who was on his way in from the country, was forced to put up the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it's dry?" 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. They brought Jesus to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. They crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right and the other on his left. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall and myrrh. After tasting it, he refused to drink it. They crucified him, and Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews." But this man claimed to be the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." And they, the Roman soldiers, divided them into 4 squares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. "Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scriptures might be fulfilled that said, "They divided my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." So this is what the soldiers did, and sitting down they kept watch over him there. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The people stood watching. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself." And the ruler even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebel who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine, vinegar, and said, "If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." One of the criminals who hung there insulted him as well. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has not done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, the disciple took her into his home. It was about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, for the sun stopped shining. And at 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing near heard this, they said, "Listen, he's calling Elijah." Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that scriptures would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. A jar of wine was there. So they soaked the sponge in it, put the sponge on a staff of the hyssop plant, and lifted to Jesus' lips, offering Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes down to save him." When he had received the drink, Jesus cried out, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is finished." Jesus breathed his last breath. With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtains of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The body of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of their tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. And when the centurion who stood there in front of guarding Jesus saw this earthquake and all that had happened and how he died, they were terrified. He said, "Surely this man was the Son of God." When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their chests and went away. Many women were there watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James the younger, and of Joseph, and Salome, and the mother of Zebedee's son. In Galilee, these women had followed Jesus and cared for his needs. Many other women who had came up with him to Jerusalem were also there. All stood there watching these things. Now it was the day of preparation, and the next day was to be a special Sabbath. Because the Jewish leaders did not want the bodies left on the crosses during the Sabbath, they asked Pilate to have the legs broken and the bodies taken down. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first man who had been crucified with Jesus, and then those of the other. But when they came to Jesus and found that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, bringing a sudden flow of blood and water. The man who saw it has given testimony, and his testimony is true. He knows that he tells the truth, and he testifies so that you may also believe. These things happened so that the scripture will be fulfilled. Not one of his bones will be broken. And, as another scripture says, they will look on the one they have pierced.